Posted by you/visible_mood_5932. I exposed my narcissistic and abusive father to his in-laws. Trigger warning, domestic A. My parents had me extremely young. They were back and forth for years until my mom got pregnant with my younger sister and found out my dad was essentially living a double life. During the time they were together, my dad was very abusive towards my mom in almost every way. One of my very first memories was my dad holding down my mom in our living room and repeatedly hitting her while I was curled up in the corner screaming at him to stop hurting her. Once my sister was born, he pretty much abandoned us. He job hopped frequently or would go without a job for a long time. He never paid child support and always missed his visitations with us to the point the judge revoked his visitation rights, and he was facing felony charges for being so far behind in child support. Despite this, the few times a year I did see him, he always had a new car, brand new flat-screen TV, the newest phone, etc. As I got older, I would hear from him maybe once or twice a year and sometimes would go a year or two without so much as a text. He did eventually get his head out of his A in his 30s and went to college and now has a successful career. I actually reconnected with him for a few months a few years ago while I was finishing up college, but that didn't last long as he began crap-talking my mom, the woman who raised me and my sister by herself, put herself through college, worked 2 jobs to make sure my sister and I had all we needed and got to do the things we wanted, etc. He tried the classic deadbeat your mom kept me from you guys BS. I called him out and started spitting facts about how I remember waiting at our meeting spot for him to come get us just for him not to show up, how I had had the same phone number since I was 10 years old and he would never reach out even after I turned 18, and so on. My dad is a textbook narcissist to the T, and as you can imagine when confronted with facts, he did not like that at all. In his mind, it's everyone's fault but his. He messaged me soon after and told me he wished my mom would have gotten rid of me when she had the chance. That was the last time I've ever spoken to him and that was 4 years ago. Around the time I briefly reconnect with my dad, he started dating a woman who I only met once. She seemed nice but my dad was around the entire time so I couldn't warn her of his true nature. I could also tell that she was smitten with him and probably wouldn't have believed me even if I told her because my dad is master manipulator, and I knew he had told her his sob story of how my mean mom kept him away from his children and turned us against him. They ended up getting married a few years ago after I cut him out of my life for good and they had a daughter who is now a toddler. Now, my younger sister and I are thicker than thieves and are always together so it does sadden me that I will more than likely never have a relationship with my other sister. Now to the outing part. About a month ago, I got a Facebook message from a woman I didn't know. She said she was my dad's mother-in-law and basically shamed me for not attempting a relationship with my sister. Mind you, I am in my mid-20s with my own life and she is 3. She also said that now that I'm an adult, maybe I could have a mature conversation with your dad and try and see things from his perspective. It may change the way you feel about him. Now I knew that no matter what I told her, she wouldn't believe me. My dad is too charming and too good at playing the victim. So instead, I asked for her address so I could show her something. I sent her a 20-page letter about all the reasons I didn't have anything to do with my dad. I detailed the abuse I had witnessed, how he cheated on my mom and left us with no money living out of her car, how he never showed up for his visits, etc. I detailed times he promised he would pick up or take me somewhere just to not show or even have the decency to call. I then went through my mom's records and made copies of the court documents showing he had missed every single visitation for 2 years and he no longer had visitation rights, documents showing he was $25,000 behind in child support and was facing felony charges and jail time, documents showing where he had asked the judge if he could sign all rights to his children over so he won't have to pay. I also got printouts of old police records where my dad had beat up my mom, there was over 8 records of this, and got pictures my grandma had taken of my mom after he beat her. I also sent printout of messages my dad has sent my mom like the time she asked if he could help buy my sister and I winter coats and he responded, "I'm not doing crap for you, they can freeze." And I also added his text about how my mom should have aborted me. I sent her all this information and am currently waiting for a response. I don't feel bad at all and feel like she, and her husband, has a right to know the truth about why I don't have anything to do with my dad, what kind of person he truly is, and what kind of man their daughter is married to and has a child with. Now on to some comments before the update. Posted by Drop It Like It's Cold 555. I bet you don't get a response. People like that tend to defend their family and pretend it all is made up. OP responded with, "That's exactly why I sent legal, court-sealed documents that cannot be brushed off. I also told them where they could find this info if they wanted to look for themselves to verify. Either way, I know my dad and know what kind of person he is. If he's not abusive to their daughter already, it's only a matter of time." Goofter responded with, You're expecting rational behavior from an irrational mind. There's no such thing as anything that can't be brushed off. People believe whatever they want to. But good for you for laying it down. Posted by Clock Weasel. I would have been tempted to ask for his current physical address while I consider trying to put aside my hurt, then notify whatever jurisdiction has open warrants for him. So, I think you took the high road. OP responded with, he doesn't have any open warrants for him, to my knowledge. He's an upstanding citizen now and well known and liked and runs a highly successful business. The police reports from him beating my mom are 20 plus years old. She never pressed charges, which is why he doesn't have an official record. Posted by Daisy Chain 0606. NTA. Such sweet revenge. OP responded with, I really didn't even want revenge. He has been out of my life for 4 years now and I have no desire whatsoever to speak with him ever again. I have zero feelings towards him, not even hate or disgust. I have a very happy and fulfilling life and honestly don't even think about him. But I did feel like they had the right to know the actual truth about why my sister and I have nothing to do with him, as well as be warned for their own daughter and granddaughter's safety. I do hope there is a day when I can have a relationship with my sister, but it won't be if he is in the picture. Now on to the update. I got a letter from the in-laws today. The letter was written by the father-in-law. He started off the letter by apologizing to me for his wife's intrusion of my privacy and for possibly opening up any old wounds that he's sure I wished to move on from. He went on to say that he and his wife were shocked, devastated, at a loss for words, and feel like a rug has been pulled out from under them would be the understatement of the century. And that, as you can imagine, this is not the story we have been told the last 5 years. He told me they 1000% believed me. He said that if being honest, he always thought it was a huge red flag that my dad's highly successful, grown children had nothing to do with him and that none of his family seemed to have anything to do with him either. He said that he told his daughter when her and my dad were engaged that she needed to look into this more and possibly reach out because something wasn't right and he felt like she wasn't getting the full story. He told me that when reading my letter, he identified with a lot of my experiences with my dad because his dad was also the same way, and because of that, he had always promised himself he would always take care of his family. He wrote that over the years, he has been tempted to reach out to me to get my side of the story but did not want to be intrusive and felt like it wasn't his place. He mentioned that a lot of what I told them my dad has probably said to them about why we have nothing to do with him is verbatim things he has said to us about why you and your sister don't come around or send to have anything to do with him. He went on to admit that they are truly at a loss of what to do with this information. He assured me that he and his wife would not let my dad know that this information has been sent to them and that they are now aware of what kind of monster he truly is underneath his facade. He told me that they see their daughter and granddaughter daily and have not been alerted or seen any signs that any kind of abuse is going on. But that he wasn't naive and knows a tiger doesn't change stripes. He said that he and his wife aren't sure if showing their daughter this information is the right thing at this very moment because they don't think she's at a place to believe it, despite the irrefutable evidence that I included. He said they were afraid she would become defensive and isolate herself from them if she thought they weren't on her and my dad's side, and the last thing they wanted to do was to isolate her and their grandchild with a man who has a history like my dad does. But he said, make no mistake, there will be a day when she is ready to believe this, and they will show her. He finished off by once again apologizing to me and said he wanted me to know how proud he was of me for sending this to them. He said that one day he hopes his granddaughter can meet her big sisters and can only hope she has half the courage you do. I just wanted to say thank you everyone for your love and support. I honestly did not expect my post to blow up the way it did. I'm truly at a loss for words. I feel like I have finally spoken my piece and have gotten justice for my mom. I'm ready to close this chapter of my life and move on. Now on to some comments. Posted by Chaotic Darkness. I'm so glad that they listened. I'm sorry you had to endure it as a child. I think his new wife may be in the honeymoon phase, I think they call it. She's blindly in love and there's nothing currently wrong. I hope she and your littlest sister stay safe. You and your family too. OP responded with, he didn't start showing his true side with my mom until around year 6, so I'm sure the mask will start to slip soon. I'm honestly glad they aren't showing her right now because I know he would find some way to manipulate her into believing it's not true. In my original post, I talked about how he was living a double life when my mom became pregnant with my sister. She found out my dad had a secret girlfriend, and they were living together. Apparently, they had been seriously dating for well over a year when my mom got pregnant with my sister. My dad convinced this other woman that my sister wasn't his and that my mom was just some old girlfriend whom he hadn't touched in years and only saw when it was to pick me up. When in reality he was also living with me, and my mom had recently proposed to my mom, she said no. He abandoned us after that. When my sister was born, my mom repeatedly sent DNA papers to him, and he just ignored them. After a year, the courts finally made him take a DNA test, and obviously my sister was his. But when you take a DNA test, it will say something along the lines of paternity probability is 99.99998%, and he convinced this girl that because it didn't say 100% that the DNA results were wrong. And she believed him. And she wasn't some floozy either. She was truly that manipulated and brainwashed by him that she didn't believe DNA reports, which literally proved my sister was conceived during the time her and my dad were living together. That's how good of a manipulator he is. Posted by Erratic. I guarantee you, Mill won't keep quiet for long. She's been lied to, and her daughter and granddaughter are at risk, and after she stepped in to defend her son-in-law. Her nature will require something to be done. Frozen BR33Z responded with, she was very accusatory and mean to Op, and it was her husband who responded to the evidence. She could also be dismissive of what Op sent them because she doesn't want to be wrong, and may choose to disbelieve them entirely. Her husband apologizing on her behalf could just mean he's the only reasonable party and being a modest husband to his wife. Just another situation to consider.